Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Michael Kirby, AC CMG, who was just admitted as a Doctor of Laws Honoris Causa, is our guest speaker this morning. Please join me in welcoming him.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Professor Budden, Emeritus Professor Saminu, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens. It's a whole lot better to be a national living treasure than a national buried treasure. Each one of us who graduates today from the University of Wollongong is privileged. This is a distinctive and excellent university that has been guided from the start by scholars and teachers of high renown, and I have known many of them. I knew Sir Richard Kirby, an early member of the council of the university, who preceded me to this honour. Although we were not related, our lives and our interests ran in parallel: law, industrial relations, international engagement. Robert Hope, Chancellor of the University, first Chancellor for nearly 2 decades after 1975. He was my colleague and friend in the Court of Appeal of New South Wales. It was here when Sir Anthony Mason helped him to inaugurate the law school that we joined together in that happy event. John Goldring, the first Dean of Law, as has been said, was a close personal friend from days together in student politics. His research revealed the importance of ensuring the admission to legal education of more school leavers from public schools and non-wealthy backgrounds like his and mine. I knew Ken McKinnon, who is in my thoughts today, a most creative Vice-Chancellor, Professor Luke McNamara, former Dean, and Professor Warwick Gullett, Dean of Law, who does me the honour of being here today. Professor McNamara and Professor Gullett were my nominators for this honour. So I thank them, the Council and the University. All of these friends are in my mind today. From this university, as has been said, I chose 2 of my outstanding associates, clerks who worked with me in the High Court of Australia doing my time as a justice. Dr. Elisa Accioni, who is here today, and Dr. James Goodcamp, who is teaching law at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. They were brilliant, and they have gone on to great achievements of their own. The sky is the limit for graduates from the University of Wollongong. I'm very proud now to join in the company of this university, and I congratulate all of my fellow graduates today in law, science and health. We are locked together in this existential moment. I must admit that I feel a little guilty that I'm receiving this degree without the irksome necessity of having to do examinations, but I'll somehow get over the guilt. None of us would be here but for those who sustained us in good times and not so good. Our parents, our partners, our very close friends, and those early school teachers in primary school who whetted the appetite for knowledge. My partner for nearly half a century, Johan van Vleuten, is here today, although he generally avoids my speeches like the plague. He joins me in honouring and thanking the Chancellor and the University of Wollongong for this recognition. After the ceremony today, we have been invited to the home of a fellow immigrant from the Netherlands, Mrs. Enneke van Middelkoop, who is here today with her daughter Susie. I honour Mrs. van Middelkoop and her daughter. They are salt of the earth. How blessed Australia has been by the migrants we have received from so many lands. In one of those very special personal touches, which is a feature of the University of Wollongong, whenever I came to give lectures here over the years, she was somehow notified and she baked a fruitcake to mark my visit. Someone had told her of my only sin. Johan and I may or we may not end up enjoying a wedding cake, but we sure have enjoyed the Wollongong fruitcakes. In this ceremony, I rededicate myself to the University of Wollongong. I will go on engaging with new cohorts of law students here. I will encourage them all to have a dream about the potential nobility of law when it's in the right hands. And if invited, I'll even divert myself to the Faculty of Science, Medicine and Health on the work that I have been performing recently in the United Nations on matters of keen interest to them. In many ways, it's more exciting, and yet it's uncertain, to enter law or medicine and health today than it was when I first graduated in 1962, 54 years ago. Then, in my discipline, there were only 7 law schools in Australia. Now, nearly 40 such law schools exist. Back in 1971, women constituted only 6% of Australia's lawyers. There were no legal aid systems. There were no community legal centres. There were no in-house lawyers in corporations. And there were very few government lawyers. There were no women judges, no women QCs, and no women law professors, none at all. Now, lawyers have many more opportunities in government, in corporations, in academia, in legal publishing, politics, in overseas countries, in tribunals, in law reform bodies, and in civil society organisations. 2 weeks ago, I was in Tokyo, and I met a room full of young Australian graduates working in that city. Last week, I was in New York, in the margins of the UN General Assembly, and there I found again a dozen young Australian graduates working for the United Nations, including in international civil society organisations. Countless selfies were taken, mostly by me, and the region in which Australia finds itself is our golden opportunity. I realise that the current age is not without challenges for new graduates. 2 major forces drive these challenges. The first is a gap that is opening up between the numbers of students undertaking professional study at universities and the number of traditional jobs. For example, a recent article disclosed that Australia is producing 15,000 law graduates each year. However, the legal profession currently has only 60,000 traditional jobs. And if this was not a challenge enough, there are others that need to be faced with realism. The greatest weakness of our traditional legal profession has been its cost-intensive character, and hence its unavailability for many ordinary citizens. The funds provided by governments for legal aid have been cut. This is so despite the fact that the needs are growing every year. And the rise of artificial intelligence offers the prospect of systems becoming available in the law and in healthcare in the lives of today's graduates with lesser need for human intervention. Such developments are not a reason to start looking around for a new vocation, least of all today on our graduation day. The traditional path may not be so traditional in the future, but university education teaches a special mode of thinking and analysing problems. How wonderful it was to hear all of those doctors who came up today and the complexity and originality and variety of the subjects on which they have been studying at the University of Wollongong. Law, for example, has found many new opportunities, and this will continue. Within 4 months of graduation last year, 74% of those who were available to work in law in traditional areas had already found employment. And I must whisper this in the presence of the science, medicine and health graduates. The law graduates enjoyed commencing salaries well above those who'd received other degrees. Professor Richard Susskind, an expert on artificial intelligence, predicts that legal employment in the future will undergo a period of redeployment, not unemployment. Lawyers, he says, move on to new tasks and adopt new areas of knowledge. He predicts that we may even stop using the word lawyer for many of these tasks. In the future, they will be legal risk managers, legal project managers, legal process analysts, and legal knowledge engineers. And the same will surely be true for the graduates in science, medicine, and health. A bumpy ride for some, maybe, but graduates from the University of Wollongong are a species with a brilliant talent in survival. We cannot be all that proud of a society in which most people with legal or health problems cannot always afford to see a professional when they have a problem. The unmet demand is there in Australia. Adapting the demand to the supply is our great challenge. Innovation and adaptation promise a big future for those who graduate with me today. Finally, it's very important to have a dream, to remember that science is the path to the dreams of the future, and that healthcare is vital and noble for all of us. Law can also be a special vocation concerned always with justice and fairness. The gifted Australian musician and comedian Tim Minchin, on an occasion like this, recently made a speech to a graduation class which went viral. I just want to say that in order that you know that I watch these things on YouTube. And this is what he told his graduating class. You don't have to have a dream. You don't have to seek happiness. Life is all luck, so don't bother planning. You should all be doing more exercise. You should be hard on opinions, including your own opinions. You should teach what you learn. You should define what you love. And you should realise that the search for the meaning of life is usually a sign that the searcher is undergoing an early midlife crisis. Now, I would agree with about half of this advice. Certainly, more exercise and less fruitcake is probably good advice for a person like me. But of course, you should all search for love. You should all search for happiness. A university-trained person cannot but ask about the meaning of life. And above all, every one of us should have a dream of a better world, a dream of justice and fairness for the disadvantaged. When I started out my discipline, the law, I certainly had a dream. In fact, it was a recurring dream. I called it my equality dream. I dreamed of equality for Australian Aboriginals. I dreamed of greater equality for women. I dreamed of equality for people of different skin colour, cultures and traditions. I dreamed of an end to white Australia. I dreamed of equality for people with disabilities. And I dreamed of equality for myself and all gay people. Those dreams propelled me into civil society and lots of pro bono legal cases. Now, none of those dreams has been entirely fulfilled, but it is people who have shared the dreams and then rolled up their sleeves and acted in pursuit of the dreams that have helped to make parts of the dream come true, including being here today at the University of Wollongong at the moment of this high honour with my partner, Johan. The Nobel Committee this year gave the Nobel Prize for Literature to Bob Dylan. On this occasion, I am hereby going to give the Nobel Prize in Literature as well to Oscar Hammerstein and Richard Rodgers for the 1949 musical South Pacific. In one of the show-stopping songs, Happy Talk in South Pacific, they propounded the importance of having a dream. So this is my message to my fellow graduates. You've got to have a dream. You've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how are you going to make your dream come true?
Like to do, you got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna have a dream come true?
At the University of Wollongong, we march out from this ceremony lawyers, scientists, healthcare professionals together, with respect and gratitude for the past of the University of Wollongong and of our teachers and our education, with realism about the present and its many new challenges, and with dreams for a better future that we ourselves will help to bring about. Eat your heart out, Tim Minchin, and add a little fruitcake, and you too will have a dream.
Like to do, you got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna have a dream come true? Talk about the moon floating in the sky, looking like a lily on a lake.